Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today to talk about how to win more games. Many times we find ourselves in a losing position, and a lot of times our mindset is taking over and making us inherently playing worse because we consider our position to be lost. I want to draw some contrast with League of Legends and the chess world. In chess, a lot of games that are being played at the highest level, especially in the classical time format, end up in a draw. A lot of positions, GMs are just, there's this mutual respect that they understand that the enemy that they're going to play against is going to figure out, play this position into a draw, and that's it. They handshake, even sometimes after 10 moves, handshake, move on, the game is a draw. And the big question here is if there are players that would decide to instead take these drawish games and just grind them out and push the enemy to territory that maybe they know, but maybe force out blunders. This is something that has not really been explored. The biggest outlier in chess, the champion in all three time controls, Blitz, Rapid, and Classical, is called Magnus Carlsen. He's known to be the late game king. And the standard that Magnus Carlsen has for himself is that he needs to always walk away from tournaments winning them. Anything else would be a disappointment. And this is something that is very evident in his play. Magnus Carlsen sometimes grinds out worse positions, sticks in there, pays attention to the time control, even pushes players that are in better positions into a space where they run out of time. And he constantly grinds out his victories. He's pushing for those blunders. Even, I think a month ago, there was a player that just blundered away his queen. I think it was Levan Arignan that just blundered his queen in a blitz match, and Magnus Carlsen just won a free game instantly. Levan Arignan, of course, in such a position, just instantly resigned. So, of course, in chess, we have perfect information. All the information is on the board. There are some games that are going to be drawn. I'm not saying that there are some like grind out every single game. There's some games that I know at my level, and I'm a pretty terrible chess player, that I know are a very drawn position. So I'm not saying grind out every single games, but there are some scenarios where maybe a draw was accepted too early. So in contrast to League of Legends, in League of Legends, many times we surrender too early. So we don't have the option of offering a draw, but sometimes when we are in a worse position, our mindset gets the better of us. A lot of players want to surrender, or a lot of players want to go next. They don't believe in the idea of winning because for some reason people are in the mindset that the enemy is going to play out the game perfectly. We've all been a part of games where we are, at the end, frankly, very surprised that we either won the game or even lost the game when we're 10k gold behind, but we can all admit that it happens. Why does it happen? Usually it happens because some specific things, some specific blunders and mistakes happened in order for you to make a massive comeback or a massive throw. Some contrast into professional League of Legends. What we just saw some days ago, FPX between IG, we saw Deshae playing Aatrox against Khan's Fiora. It started off with a level 2 gank from Tian, burning Aatrox's flash. Then a level 4 dive with a massive wave crashing into the turret. A dive that honestly I didn't think would work, but it worked, putting Aatrox even further behind in a matchup that is very, very snowballing. In this position, Deshae figured out ways to squeeze out as much CS as possible to maintain himself in the game, because just like Magnus Carlsen, he didn't accept losing this game. He looked for the mistakes that Khan was doing, whether it was not pressuring on every CS, not pressuring on specific timings, not doing proper all-ins. This is something that Deshae, of course, because he's the best top laner in the world, always was on a lookout for. It did in fact happen that Khan occasionally, solo killed him, because there is an element of risk that, of course, Deshae needs to take in order to achieve this. But the game ended in, of course, IG winning. It happened off of the back of Deshae surviving this onslaught from Khan and the shy denying a lot of these all-ins, looking for these moments, and then eventually being very, very powerful in team fights because he kept being resilient and kept his mind in a place with what do I need to look for in order to come back into this game. This same mindset I want to push into all of you solo queue players as well. In solo queue, many times we find ourselves in a losing position. We need to start to think on the spectrum of what needs to happen in order for us to come back into this game. And it can be as extreme as possible or even light as possible. Sometimes it could be we need to stall to late game. How do we achieve that? Okay, we need to deny the enemy of doing Nasher. That's a big one. How do we deny the enemy of doing Nasher? We need to control the vision behind the Nasher so we can easily get access to it if they start it. How do we prevent the enemy from stepping into our jungle and warding it out? Okay, we're going to simply just stand there and wait for the enemy to face check. We're just going to keep our AD carry in mid lane, clearing the waves in case they push. And then we're going to stay in our jungle and make this as difficult as possible for the enemy. And then eventually, maybe if the enemy is not playing a perfect game, they're going to make blunders, right? They're going to make mistakes. And then there's the extreme case, as I mentioned. Sometimes it could be so extreme, you're 15k goal behind. What needs to happen in order for you to come back? Maybe you need to win 3 team fights in a row at your Nexus, right? Maybe you need to win 3 team fights in a row at your Nexus. Very low probability, but still understanding the concept of that needing to happen is going to be detrimental for how many times you're going to have success in those situations. So it could be a specific team fight. Maybe you need to map it out. Okay, the enemy Jinx is 15-0. How are we going to kill her? Okay, our Alistar has flash. Maybe we can look to combo him. Okay, maybe we can look to engage on him with everything we have. Map it out. What needs to happen? What is the mistake that Jinx needs to do in order for you to win this fight? What is the mistake that the enemy team needs to do in order for you to win this fight? Some situations are just a lost cause, but it's all about just increasing your odds. You're always in the mindset, the same like the Shy and also Magnus Carlsen and a lot of other champions that you know of that I'm going to mention later, are in the mindset that they are never accepting a loss in the game. They're always thinking about what is the mistake that needs to happen, right? So map everything out, map out the play, no matter how extreme it is. Okay, our jungler needs to steal Nasher. That is our way in. We have a Nocturne, he needs to ult in, steal the Nasher, that's the only way we win the game. It could be something silly as that, and then maybe you can give up space and give more space to the Nocturne in order for him to be able to steal this Nasher. Map out the play that is going to give you that big comeback and communicate that to your teammates. This works in competitive play, this works in pro play, this works in sports as well. If you're 4-0 down, what do you need to do? You need to score 5 goals in order to win this match, right? How do you do it? You go full offense, right? You go full offense. I'm not going to exclaim here that I'm some strategic expert when it comes to football, but you get my point, right? You need to analyze your situation and not just fall over, right? You want to be in the winner's mentality. You want to be in the winner's mind. 2 great examples of past teams that were very dominant in their region, and usually something that happens all across. Teams that are the most dominant in their region, what stands out the most is their ability to grind out wins. G2 last year, many games they fell behind gold-wise, but they managed to grind out wins, because even in those situations, when on paper they're in a losing position, they figured out, oh, this is what needs to happen, this is the mistake that we need to force, and teams always put themselves in the position where they made this mistake. Because unlike chess, the highest rated player, Magnus Carlsen, is 2,877, something like this in the classical time format. If I would compare it to League, I think at the highest level we're maybe at a 2K rating, 1800 rating, because in comparison to chess, a League is at its infancy. It's like a little atom, Because we saw at the World Championship, there is a lot of mistakes. The best of the best make a lot of mistakes. What does that say about your bronze game, your silver game, even your challenger game? Mistakes are going to happen. Be ready to punch back. G2 is a good example. We had as well Griffin was very, very good at this. They were always grinding out the victories. Sometimes they were behind. Sometimes they were very, very good at stalling out games and reaching that point of winning. That's why they consistently beat the lower tier teams. Fnatic 2018, when they were at their best, when they got second place in the World Finals. Us in Vitality, we lost games against Fnatic and also the G2 when we were ahead, because they were always forcing those blunders out of us, because they were ready to catch us if we fall. They were ready to punch if we exposed our face for a single second, because they had the winner's mentality, right? So here I've given you a lot of examples of teams, of players, of other sports, other disciplines, of players that really, they are at the highest peak. They have the mindset of, what can I do to get back into this? They're always solving the problem in their mind. How do we win this game? Not only when they're in a winning position. So, no, at any point, don't surrender. It is going to be a very, very good discipline exercise for you to always try to figure out the puzzle that is League of Legends, no matter how extreme it is. And this, I can speak from experience, because this was Vitality's biggest issue. When we were practicing and when we were screaming, very often when we were in a losing position, we tended to give up, because we saw it as, okay, we made this mistake, the next mistake doesn't matter. But it does, because it's very difficult to imagine yourself in a position where the game is always going to be perfect, because very rarely it is. That's why there was such a huge contrast for Vitality. The games that we won looked like massive stomps. The games that we lost were like, okay, we lose, we mess up a first dive, and then we kind of fall over and we fall apart, right? There was a massive contrast there. And I think it's because we weren't willing to grind out those games that were a losing position. So hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you can change your mindset, turn into a winner, because in the end, this is what winners do. They figure out the worst possible situations, and they figure out that puzzle of how to win. I gave you guys some good examples. I hope you can check them out as well, because all of these teams and players that I mentioned are exciting for me to watch. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I would like to say that, if we reach 25k subs, I'm going to do a headset off review. Exciting. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.